Welcome to the Explainer. So today, we're going to unpack the incredible journey of artificial intelligence. Seriously, from a simple question asked decades ago, all the way to the powerful tools that are now changing our world, one prompt at a time. Okay, so here's our game plan. We'll start at the very beginning, with the birth of the big idea. Then we'll walk through the early days, the promise and the setbacks. After that, we dive into the deep learning revolution, see how AI literally landed in our hands, and finally, take a look at the brand new AI-powered world we're all living in. So let's start at the beginning. Our story doesn't kick off with silicone chips or lines of code, but with a really big, almost philosophical question that somebody asked more than 70 years ago. And this is it, the simple but totally revolutionary challenge from the brilliant British mathematician Alan Turing, way back in 1950. You know, this single question basically set the stage for the entire field of artificial intelligence as we know it. So to actually test this idea, Turing came up with something he called an imitation game. Just imagine you're texting with two different entities, but you can't see them. One is a real person, and the other is a computer. If you, as the judge, can't reliably figure out which is which, well, the machine is said to have passed the test. And this timeline? It's pretty much the whole story in a nutshell. It all started in the 50s with that simple test, but then it hit a long, cold winter where not much happened. And then, bam, the 2010s hit with the deep learning revolution, which brings us right up to the powerful tools we have today. All right. Let's jump ahead to the 1960s and see how things started to build. The early pioneers, they made some incredible progress based on Turing's ideas, but they very, very quickly ran smack into a massive wall. So researchers created these early systems like the perceptron. Think of it as being inspired by a single neuron in the human brain. It could actually learn to make simple decisions, like telling the difference between a square and a triangle, just by looking at its features. It was a tiny step for sure, but a really crucial first one. But here's the thing. The hype was writing checks that the technology just couldn't cash yet. Early attempts tried to give computers these hard-coded rules for every possible situation, which, as you can imagine, didn't work very well. Plus, the computers back in the 70s were just way too slow and expensive to pull off these big ideas. And all of that led to a major drop in funding and interest, a period we now famously call the AI winter. But you know, after that long, cold freeze, things started to thaw. And then a full-blown explosion of progress happened. This revolution was powered by a couple of key things that just changed everything. You know, the best way to wrap your head around deep learning is to think about it like you're studying for a huge exam. You take in a ton of information, you process it, you practice with it to find all the patterns, and then, on exam day, you produce an output. Well, AI does pretty much the same thing, just on a ridiculously massive scale. So here's a super simplified look at how it works. Data, let's say a photo of a cat, goes into the input layer. Then it passes through all these hidden layers, where each layer recognizes more and more complex features. The first layer might see edges, the next might see ears and whiskers, and so on. Finally, the output layer makes the call. Yep, that's a cat. So what really kicked off this revolution? Well, it came down to two key things. First, the absolutely insane amounts of data the internet generated. All the text, all the images, all the videos we've ever created. And the second thing, and this is kind of funny, was super powerful graphics processing units, or GPUs. They were originally made for video games, but they turned out to be absolutely perfect for training AI. So, how does all this complex tech actually show up in your life? Well, it's in the AI assistants we use for work every day. Things like Microsoft Copilot or Google's Gemini, which can help us write emails, analyze documents, you name it. And it all starts with what we call a prompt. You give the AI a really specific instruction. You tell it your goal, in this case, a warm welcome, and you give it context. It's for a new marketing employee, and you want to highlight the company culture. And just like that, the AI gets to work. It can brainstorm ideas with you or even draft the entire email for you. It basically becomes this incredibly powerful assistant in your digital toolbox, just helping you get things done faster. And that, right there, is deep learning in action. Now, this powerful tech isn't just in our apps. It's way bigger than that. It's reshaping our entire economy. And with that kind of transformation, you get both incredible benefits and some really serious challenges that we all have to think about. And this is where we get to the real trade-off. On the one hand, AI can analyze your spending habits to spot fraud and stop it before it even happens, which is amazing. But on the other hand, the massive amount of personal data it needs to collect to do that, well, that creates huge privacy risks. And that number on your screen, that's not just a number. That's how many Americans had their personal data, including their social security numbers, exposed in that huge Equifax data breach back in 2017. It's a pretty stark reminder of just how massive these risks can be. So what's next? Well, looking ahead, the next big frontier for a lot of researchers is something called AGI, or Artificial General Intelligence. The AI we have today is what you'd call narrow. It's awesome at specific tasks like writing or making images. AGI, though, is the goal of an AI that could understand, learn, and apply knowledge across any domain, a lot like a human can. So, we started with Alan Turing's simple question, and now here we are in a world that's increasingly co-piloted by artificial intelligence. It's been a breathtaking journey. But this last question here, it's not just for scientists anymore. It's really for all of us. As AI keeps learning from this vast digital world we've built, what are we actually teaching it about ourselves?